Listen up before we get started on the podcast today. The platform VXP, built for beer distributors by beer distributors, is hiring. If you are listening to the podcast, you are obsessed with the industry. If you're obsessed with helping beer distributors run sharper, smarter, and more profitable teams, this job might be for you. And Mikey, we are excited to welcome a new team member into the team. Tell people a little bit about the role.
Yeah, here at VXP, our customer success lead is going to help make sure that every client is successful throughout the entire setup process and beyond. So helping manage our clients day to day, looking over data analysis, guiding, helping build objectives and incentives, and also training, being on site with reps and virtually with reps, and helping with all things kickoff.
You'll also be involved in working with Ross in the implementation side and getting clients ready to go. Ross, we're looking for somebody who loves data as well, too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be able to operate software. I mean, if you've operated our software, that's a good start. And having that left and right side brain, being able to be analytical, but also be personable and be able to adapt to what customers are telling you what they want, and also being able to drive them towards what they really need. So we figured putting it out here would be a good place that we might find somebody that fits the profile.
For those of you listening and wondering a little bit more about VXP, we're a small team with big impact. And if you're looking to serve and work with some of the biggest and the best distributors in the country, this might be a good fit for you. We're looking for somebody who's obsessed. We're looking for somebody who's spent time in the industry. We're looking for somebody who's either been in sales, run sales, been an SEC, a sales analyst, and basically live the daily grind and can walk the walk and talk the talk of the beer industry. This may be one of the hardest and most rewarding roles. And if that excites you, please apply. Ways you can apply. You can go to our website, vxptech.com. That's vxptech.com/hiring. You will see the details of the job listing there. At the very bottom, you can see how to apply. We want to see how you're built for beer by beer. And send us anything that captures your mindset, a story, a sales deck, a battle-tested spreadsheet, a Loom video, or whatever it is. We care less about format and more about flavor. We want to see how you think and how you react and how you interact with whatever you want to share with us. And we want you to email that to info@vxptech.com with the subject line, I'm in built for beer. So if that fancies you, if you're excited, you got the rules of the road, you know how to do it, and we're looking forward to talking to you soon. This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I'm your moderator with a motley crew on Thanksgiving week with Moneyball Ross, the Silver Fox, George, and Data Mike. Boys, we have some fun plans for Thanksgiving week. Yes?
Eating turkey, man. We gotta eat some turkey, on Thanksgiving, and then head north on Friday. Get back out in the woods.
This is going to be an unpopular opinion on the pod. I hate the Thanksgiving dinner.
You do?
Yeah.
The family.
I don't like the fare. I do not like the fare. I like the fun. I don't like the fare.
That's why we're going to Texas eating steak.
See, we're going to a steakhouse too.
Are you really?
Yep. Going out to dinner and grandma in Michigan and with a steakhouse. Do the same thing. She loves it. She loves it.
You guys normally do that, right? You don't really do like
we do.
Yeah, sit down cook style. You usually go somewhere.
Well, we swore off the place that forgot our meals. We will be named nameless on the pod, but forgot our meals one Thanksgiving that did the Thanksgiving menu, and then I wore a martini, and grandma was like, "We need to get the fuck out of here." I love it. What about you, Ross?
Going to a place they don't celebrate Thanksgiving, going north to Canada. Well, technically they have Thanksgiving. It's just not the same as ours.
Not the same as ours. That is awesome. I'm sure they're going to have some Thanksgiving fare up there.
No, I don't think so. I think we're skipping
right
over. We're going straight to Christmas.
Straight to Christmas. Right to Christmas. I love it. And George, you'll be down in Texas.
Yep.
In the Austin area? Is that where you're going,
Austin,
right?
Yep. Actually, Round Rock, but suburb of Austin. So it'll be fun.
Nice. Good stuff. Other fun fact, Sarah and Bud are not allowed in Austin anymore.
What?
For reasons. We
How do you
always
get
get
barred from a city?
You can't stop
we don't
there.
we're not barred from the city. We will go independently, not together. We get in absolute drop down, drag out fights every time we go to what's the street downtown? It's the shoot. What is the name
Sixth
of
Street.
it? No, down. I'm trying to remember.
It's like
what
their
it was
version of Bourbon Street. I know what you're talking about. Like live music and all that stuff.
Rainey Street. Every time we go to Rainey Street, you're gonna drop down, drag out, Greg Kathy Sue style, Mike, and will not go back to the city together.
Why? What are you guys fighting about?
Just bad
It's
luck.
always been new. It's always been something new.
I guess it's better than our Baba Ganoush experience
That was
on
the Taj
Rainey
Mahal.
Street.
When we did when we went to so they had this place on Rainey Street. It was the Indian joint. You would have loved this place, Ross. It was called the Garage Mahal, I think is what it was called.
Yep.
Good name.
Yep. It is no more though. It's some high
That
rise.
whole area is transformed.
I know. It's totally different. But yeah. So we're not allowed there together, only solo.
I have a really hard time picturing you and Sarah even disagreeing. No much knockdown
Right.
drop.
It's incredible. It never happens, but when it does, it's incredible.
There must be
You
like
do
a
it right
vortex at that particular latitude and longitude.
Yep. I mean, we use all our best relationship advice on the pod. I tell her to calm down, like what Ross says. I pat her on top of the head. These are all the things that work great.
Pat her on top of it. That goes really far. You look at it right
Well,
in the eyes
there
and
might
say,
be
Sarah,
where it starts.
I mean, it's actually where it's getting started again. We're trying to finish it, but that's where it revs up again.
you look her square in the
Oh.
eyes and say, what are you trying to accomplish? What is it that you're trying to achieve?
What are you trying to achieve? She listens to these every once in a while, and I'll get a text be like, "You guys can't give relationship advice." I said, nobody said it was good relationship advice. It just is relationship advice. There's no disclaimer that it's supposed to be good about any of this. Oh, well, today, a little bit different path. Y'all for listeners, have seen us take this path a couple of times, but we're going to go through some more news because a handful of big breaking news details have come out about a couple big things. And I know what makes sense is this is the Thanksgiving episode for 2025. We would shoot the shit and decide, and talk about the news and what's going on. So first one, this is kind of crazy. So we all know that Rogue Ales has been struggling, but they abruptly shut down after 37 years, really kind of, Ross, from your neck of the woods, pioneering brewery, really kind of like did things that nobody else was doing when craft was getting started, went from 88,000 barrels to 45,000 barrels. This is the wild thing. I love Lester Jones' take on LinkedIn. He posted that it's kind of wild that after being in business for 37 years, you don't own the real estate. You're still paying rent. They owe $500,000 in back rent and then other things as well too. It's just kind of a sad day, isn't it, Ross?
Yeah, I mean it's in my early days in Oregon, I mean, that was such a presence, and it's also nice that their flagship is a Maibach. It's something different. It's not just an IPA or a lager. But yeah, it represents the Oregon coast, and I mean it's just a long series of dying OGs. I mean, Pyramid, Red Hook, Widmer. I mean, I know some of these are still around, so to speak, but in Rogue, I mean, it's sad.
They haven't transformed in a lot of ways. You think about Bell's, Mikey, and New Belgium, where, that the founders would have said 1554 was their best beer. And then Fat Tire takes off. They resisted doing an IPA for the longest time. They do Ranger 1.0, right? And then they do Voodoo. And I wonder if we really looked at this in detail, Mike, how much of a different brewery New Belgium would be without Voodoos, without the whole Voodoo innovation.
I have a hard time not saying that. They'd probably be in this story too. I mean, I really do. We were there for that transformation. And Ranger, before it was Voodoo, was just a small blip on the map, right? It didn't really have a whole lot of pull. It was a great beer, but wasn't getting a whole lot of pull. Imperial was okay, but once the rebrand came, that's what really built that back up and gave them something to fall back on.
Well, I mean, a good counterpoint in the same city is where's Odell?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Seriously. I haven't seen Odell in a long time.
Nobody talks about it. Remember when we were trying to court them, Mikey? And we were like,
Yeah.
man, we got to get our hands on Odell.
Yeah.
Like, that's the next best thing.
Yeah. I
And
remember.
again, their flagship is a great beer, and it's a different style.
Mm-hmm. And we talked, you and I had talked quite a bit. I was probably our craft brand manager at the time, and it was in the craft boom, right? And craft was just on fire, and we couldn't grab enough suppliers. And like you said, we're seeking people out. And we had a conversation once, and I was like, where do you see this going? This can't just keep growing at this rate. You know, what is going to happen? It's all just going to implode. And I remember you saying it's always going to be the middle guys that get pushed out. Small guys are going to survive. Big guys have the volume. They're going to survive. We're going to see all these, the middle tier. And we're seeing that, you know, it's a perfect snapshot of what's happening to the mid tier in craft right now. And when you lose 40, 50% of your volume, but your fixed costs are still there, you can't downsize fast enough, you know?
Nope. And
Well,
they
the
did
challenge
now.
is turning a hobby into a business, right? And then a business that continues to grow to survive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the dynamics change.
There's a big gap between large, you know, regional powerhouses, Bell's and New Belgium, and your local tap room, right? Your local tap room has something that most mid-size or big regionals don't have, and that's that local power. But once you get them in a chain set, you put them in a grocery store, they just get lost. All right. So, I mean, they do have that fly. I remember talking to quite a few craft brewers in our territory, the small startup guys, and instead of being the distributor and they're going, hey, you know, we really want your brand. We want to carry your brand. I was always trying to talk sense into them. Never distribute. Stay in house. Keep it all. Do not distribute your brand.
Yeah. Well, you create a lot more resiliency like that. And when Mike's talking about, you know, big, medium, small, like those large regional guys that have professionalized their business and have professional managers and are running it like a business, not like a hobby, to George's point, they've usually been able to transform through this and manage it. They've got a balance sheet, they've got cash flow, and they're kind of can deal with it. The smallest folks operate a lot more like a restaurant, and they've got some resiliency in that they don't have a lot of overhead, and a lot of their profits and their income can come right off of the restaurant sales, right? And like the distribution sales, if they don't have a big footprint, or if they're in a couple counties with like a local distributor or with a couple distributors, they don't have a sales rep or a sales force that they're supporting. The dead zone is that middle group where they've got a tap room or two, and they have some overhead and they have some debt service and they've got some sales reps, and that incremental case that they're selling through distribution is actually not that profitable in a lot of places or in a lot of ways. And they have to invest in the hard assets of growing their brewery, because brewing is capital intensive, and they're not able to get on the other side of the profit curve fast enough. And then they get caught. And, you know, Rogue, at one point in time, Ross would have been on the other side of it. The scariest thing about this story is that Rogue would have been on the other side of it and has collapsed back down below it. And, you know, they cut loose all of their, well, they didn't cut loose. They kind of moved all of their sales staff, minus a couple of people, over to USA Beverages a few months ago, and now have shut everything down because they were going to do a consolidated shared sales force model. So they'd move that labor force off, but even that wasn't enough to kind of make it continue to work. So that's the scariest thing about this for some of those breweries out there that are on the larger side, is like maybe nobody's safe, and we got to be more cautious about this.
Well, as you recall, what ended up, you know, getting the OGs in trouble in the first place, you know, I'm thinking, you know, Widmer back in the day, Red Hook back in the day, where they had AB come in, was because interest rates rose, and a similar thing happened. You had, you had the industry shrink a little bit, and you had margin or interest rates rising, which just compressed everything. It's actually very similar to what we're seeing now. You know, you've got interest rates that have risen.
That's a fair point too.
And the trends are not doing you a favor, or doing you any favors right now.
And the trends with Circana data out in October, the craft stuff continues to kind of struggle. This is the headwinds around craft, is still down 4.5% year to date dollars, 6% on volume. Grocery down 7, almost 8 in dollars and 8.4 in volume. Only 11 of the top 30 craft brands are growing. C-store is the only bright spot, right? Mostly 19.2's Mikey and kind of that, convenience channel for that type of package. But grocery is where craft is living. And George, when you're going out to the grocery store and you're seeing people shop, like they're getting smaller and smaller shelf space. Like that shelf set reset season for 2026 is going to be tough for craft, more than likely.
Keep shrinking.
Yep. Mikey, when you've been out in the trade in the last couple months, have you noticed that in grocery stores at all? I haven't spent a lot of time in grocery.
Yeah,
when
that
I've been out.
space has shrunk so much.
Yep.
With the expansion of RTDs and growing space there. I mean, some of it's coming from the malt seltzer space that was still overspaced, but a lot of it's coming from craft, shrinking down. There are some states that have the Delta 9. You see 4-foot sections of nothing but Delta 9 in a grocery store set too. But yeah, I mean, it's what we're seeing. Obviously, when the whole industry is struggling like it is, right, and craft was kind of on that leading edge before the industry started going down. I mean, it's taken a big hit. People are SKU fatigue is kicking in, rising prices, and people are scared to spend money like they used to, right? And I think we see the uptick in the value brands. So I think it's just all coming together. I did read a statistic too where it said the Brewers Association says 2024 to 2026 is going to be like a structural reset period where it's like everybody's going to reset, right? And some analysts think that 20 to 30% of the mid-sized breweries won't even survive the decade, which is a scary statistic. And I still see that space continuing to shrink as we move forward.
Oh. George, you had O'Fallon Brewery kind of go down in a flame of glory over by you too, didn't you?
It did. Yeah. It similar kind of situation, right? I think a lot of it though too was, it was probably hard to say, but just a hangover from COVID, right? Everybody had to shuffle. They couldn't keep their
tap rooms open.
Whether they had a tap room or a restaurant or what have you. So they had to shuffle. And I mean, again, the bank didn't stop asking for payments, right? And so could they financially ever recover from it?
Yeah.
Somebody picked up those brands, right? Because when I was in Missouri, it's Urban Chestnut. They bought the brand.
Well, they're not doing great.
What's that?
I said, I think they're not. I think they're struggling too.
Yeah, but they did. They bought the rights to the brands and the recipes and trying to keep it going. But
is Urban Chestnut right downtown, Ross and George? Yep. Is that where that is? I think I've been to that location before. It's a cool spot right downtown. It's
just south of Central West End. What is it called? South City? What would it be considered?
Yeah.
So as much as craft is getting beat up, the RTD world is still on fire. We've got the story related to, so this is Wall Street Journal and Beer Business Daily both reported on this. And we got a little bit of Jeffrey's analysis in this kind of breakdown, but BeatBox is getting a peek under the hood from Anheuser-Busch. This is like the worst kept secret in the industry in my mind.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could see, if you were paying attention at all to this and what BeatBox has been doing with their network and how they've been doing and how close they are with Anheuser-Busch, they've been moving to AB wholesalers little by little over the last 5 or 6 years. They're with the AB1 network, which is the Anheuser-Busch wholly owned distributors. They're one of very few suppliers that actually do business that are not AB owned brands with those
Correct.
branches. And so they've leaned into the network for quite some time. So those are 2 dead giveaways. They continue to grow as well. They engage in their AB network in a lot of the similar ways that AB does. So they're $250 million at retail, growing 30-40%. They're one of the number 1 RTD singles in C-store channel. Again, incredibly aligned with Anheuser-Busch's capabilities. Their number 1 channel is C-store as well. They're doing 12 million 6-liter cases for the beer guys here. Who knows how many boxes that is? But it's a lot of boxes. Clearly a wine person wrote that stat. And they're looking at, almost $1 billion in, valuation here, reported from Wall Street Journal and BBD of around 700 million. Like, this is a great move for AB if they do follow through on it. And every other RTD they have the other RTD that's doing incredible. I don't think every RTD they bought, but the RTD that's doing incredible, Cutwater, in their market or in their portfolio, they also bought. And it's an incredible complement to their portfolio overall. So Ross, you know a little bit about the BeatBox crew as well. Take on this.
I love those guys. Shout out to them. They're almost as good as the Good to Grow guys.
Yeah.
Got to drop it every episode. No, I think that they've hit a sweet spot in the market. There's a consumer looking for it. The margins are spectacular for our distributors. I mean, it's just perfectly positioned.
And they stayed the course. They did something really special, Mikey, because we've been selling them and working with them at our distributorship for years. I remember when we first saw the Shark Tank episode, and they were just down in Texas, and we emailed them the next day. And fortunately, many, many years later, it was like 3 or 4 years later, we got the opportunity to actually work with them. Nobody else was doing those Tetra Paks, and they stayed the course, and they never left and never wavered. And I remember, probably us included, and other distributors were trying to get them to do 16-ounce cans, and they never wavered off of the Tetra Pak.
Yeah, I don't think we were real big fans or big believers in the Tetra Pak in the beginning, but look at it now. I mean, there's so many Me Too's out there coming out in the Tetra Pak too, but it worked for them, and it created that brand. You saw that little pouch, you saw that Tetra Pak, and you knew exactly what that person was drinking too. But yeah, definitely, I think a package was just as powerful as the brand. But I mean, this is a perfect acquisition for AB right now. I mean, it's a fast growing product, right? It's loud, it's fun. It's a C-store monster, which AB loves. It's already in the AB network, so no integration risk, right? And it's like they're really building out their spirits portfolio with Cutwater, Neutral, and possibly now BeatBox, and they're really just trying to fulfill that portion. I remember, it's probably been at least 7 years now, 8 years ago, when we were sitting in our regional meeting, and they were, really trying to make the move over to a full beverage supplier, and wanted to move 30% of the business beyond beer. So, I mean, this is a bold move into that direction as well.
Yeah. George, you've got a couple boys that are Gen Zers. Are they BeatBox guys?
They're more RTDs.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, or beer still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking though, Mike, you were talking a little bit about the Tetra Pak, but think about this for a minute too. Is there a dynamic in this play with you got BeatBox in their Tetra Pak, you got Buzzball with their special packaging on the wine and spirit side? Long ago, you had Copa Divina, right? And is there something, even if it's just subtle, about the packaging? Clearly, we all know it's the liquid inside, whatever package it comes in, that matters. But if there's a dynamic there, or
does it, George? Does it really matter? Does it matter?
Not always.
No, I'm sure there's a lot of great packages with bad. I get it now. Sorry, a little slow on the uptake there. It's the package size that matters.
Right.
Yeah, there has to be a correlation, I would think. I mean, it goes back to branding and labels, like we've talked about before too, and wanting that product to not only taste good but feel cool in your hand, make you feel, like you're drinking something that nobody else has, or maybe something that's just a little bit different.
But it's different on the shelf too, and so does it intrigue someone to say, "Oh, I'm going to try this just because the package is different"?
Yeah. Here's a pro move for your boys too. Pro move: throw one of those Tetra Paks in the freezer, and then shake it up, and you have yourself a wine slushie, and it's delicious.
All right,
there you go.
There's a great Thanksgiving treat for anybody.
Oh, hell yeah.
Free advice.
In a box.
There'll be a whole new meaning to Black Friday.
Grandma's going to be
Hangover Saturday.
I was gonna say it's gonna be as bad as the hangover I had that one day.
Yes.
Although I will say the worst hangover I ever had in my life was Tour de Franzia. So it was back in college, and it was you had a buddy, and you had to finish the bag of wine. And my asshole friend bought that burgundy flavored, colored one. like the dark red. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, this is the best flavor. I'm like, no, you go with the blush. You got to finish this shit. You go with the blush.
Everybody knows that, right?
Everybody knows that.
He probably came over in his smoking jacket at the same time too, and a pair of flip flops.
We never did Tour de France.
Yeah, he was actually from North Dakota, so it was the middle of winter. Yes, he was wearing flip flops because
yes,
as one does.
We did Edward 40 Hands. We've never did Tour de France. Tour de France yet.
Yeah. 440s at 4.
Is that why 40 ounces
That's another
discontinued mostly?
Yes, yeah. It was the end of the day on Friday. It was 440s at 4.
Oh God.
So we've got classic craft getting crushed. We've got RTDs, high alcohol content, flying, selling for almost $1 billion deals. And then the other thing we've got in that, and then, voodoo, all that high alcohol content. And then in the other thing we're doing, the completely other side of the portfolio is NA beer, and all that's moving. We haven't talked about NA beer in a while, but Best Day Brewing came up recently that we talk a ton about athletic, right? And Michelob Ultra Zero has been on fire as well. But you still got this segment of, Matt Stanky and that crew and the Best Day crew, and where they're still doing well, and athletics still number one. We got Ultra Zero probably number two. I think they might be close to number one by volume, or maybe they already are number one by volume. I'm not totally into like the volumetric on a national side with them, but you still got Best Day and these other and Go Brewing that are under this market that are still doing great, adding a bunch of new markets, adding a bunch of new brands, and we're on the cusp. We're only 6 weeks away from dry January as well. So if you're not thinking about this or tapping into this, this is a good time to start to plan for this as your sales team to get ready for this too. Have you guys had or seen Best Day more? I started to see more and more of it all over the place and here in Orlando.
I've been seeing it a lot more out in the market. Yeah, I haven't tried one yet, but no, I've been seeing it pop up all over the place. So, and right now is the perfect time to get out in position, right? This is, we talked about it before. This is demand driven. This is not a fad. The consumer is building this drinking occasion, and the more research you do on it, the NA beers too, where everybody thinks it's people that are just completely sober and getting into it. Yeah, there's the sober aspect, but it's the sober-ish movement too, where it's cutting back on beer, right? I think the statistic I read was 70% of NA beer drinkers still drink alcohol in one way, shape, or form. They're not completely sober. They're just either cutting back or, drunk driving laws, right? Or getting healthy, whatever it may be, but they're cutting back. And I think it's a huge opportunity still, with it being the fastest and probably the most important growth story in beer right now. For our on-premise, when we talk about looking at on-premise and how do we grow on-premise, there's probably still tremendous opportunity out there before it gets flooded, right? To get on the menu. And there's so many places. Bud, you're a big consumer of non-alcoholic beer. How often do you go to a restaurant where it's not on the menu, but they might have it if you ask for it, right? You never see it on the beer menu. You even have a menu for mocktails, but their NA beers aren't out there. And it's frustrating as a consumer that's looking for it too.
Well, we're going to Cabo in December, and I've been trying to, warm the liver up to some tequila. So I've been drinking more lately. I'm getting buckled up for our Cabo tequila trip. So
we want videos. We want videos.
But
Sarah arguing on tequila.
I can't. We don't argue on tequila. I'm a very happy drunk. I'm very happy.
You gotta find the tequila while you're there. That's the good stuff.
I probably have some of that.
I have one.
I'm sure you do, Mike. You have everything down there.
I do. I have one unopened. I'll bring it out for the next episode. Actually, if I turn my camera off, I can go grab it. I know where it's at.
You're gonna drink it for us?
I will not drink it. No, the sediment on the bottom of that thing is. I have the.
You haven't kept it under prime conditions. Clearly, not in the refrigerator.
No, you got to keep it. You got to keep it at cellar temperature and humidity, man.
Yeah, it's
like fine wine.
There's no light that gets to it. I had the worst one in the entire collection.
No light that gets to it.
Yeah, the worst one in the entire collection is the original Budweiser Draft Ice, which is now Bud Ice, but it used to be called Budweiser Draft Ice, and the bottle was like an ice cube. It's kind of shaped like an ice cube. And it's the beer is completely clear on top, and on the bottom it looks like mud. It is
Ugh.
so bad. It's the worst one in the collection. It did not age well.
I do want to bring it back to the NAs real quick. I might take the other side of that now. I'm worried that we're looking at the same inflection point that we saw with seltzer, and that, it is a category that was defined in the case of seltzer by White Claw, in the case of NA by Athletic. And then we had some secondary movers that have done well. And then at some point, everybody piled in.
Yeah.
And about the same time everybody piled in is when the demand curve went like, woo! And everybody was sitting there looking at demand curves looking like this, planning into it, producing into that, selling into that, marketing into that. And then I'm worried that's where on the curve we are. I mean, it's not that it's never going to, it's not that it's not going to always be a category. I'm just worried that we've over-indexed on it. We've overproduced into it, and we've over-skewed into it.
The challenge that the category has is that on one hand, if you don't want to drink alcohol, it is better for you if you take that line of thinking, or you buy into that line of thinking that alcohol is bad for you. If you actually look at many of the NA players, calorie and carb count, and you care about calorie and carb count, you might as well drink a Michelob Ultra, Miller Lite, or Busch Light, or Coors Light, because many of the 0.0 beers are double or triple or quadruple the carbs of a light calorie 4.5%, 5% lager. And Ultra Zero is the only non-alcohol 0.0 beer on the market that actually addresses that direct concern. It's actually like 4.5 or 5 carbs.
But you don't sell AB anymore. You don't have to pitch it.
But most of them are that. But Heineken Zero and even Bud Zero is 16 carbs, and Ultra and Heineken Zero is like 14 or 16 carbs or something like that.
What about Guinness? Guinness has got to be low too.
Guinness carbs for 0.0 is higher than even classic Guinness, if I remember
really
right. Mm-hmm.
Wow,
There's something about the way that you make a 0.0 beer that requires most of it to be a heavier carb structure for whatever reason. And then we've never asked a brewer about it. And that's not for this podcast to do, I don't think either.
Well, but we should do that next time we have somebody on like Stinky.
We could. Yes, we could do that. Speaking of him, my mom, Mikey, asked me for his cell phone number, and I was like, where is this going to go?
Yeah.
I don't. And I just sent it to her because I'm not going to fight her on it. And she texted him and me and was like, hey, I'm down in Florida. I love Easy Man. Where can I buy it? I need it. And if it's not down here, you need to launch it now.
That's awesome.
Which goes right into the next story.
Because Easy Man is their THC infused drink. Yeah.
Yep. So that goes right into that THC business.
At that segue.
Yep, look at that segue, where my mom is only 39, as she will tell you, but women 40 plus are driving the THC beverage growth world, and that they make up somewhat around 10% of the intoxicating beverage sets, or THC beverages do. So it's that functional. Mikey, you've been on this from the day one. It's not distracting from your core beer drinker. It's net additive to the market. It's business as usual for a lot of the beer stuff. And you've been on that from day one. George, you're in a market where you see a lot of this because Missouri's somewhat more well-developed. Mike's in Michigan, and I spend a lot of time up there where we don't sell much of it. Are you notice what's everybody saying post-ban now? Because that's the other piece of this, it's not ban, but the 2026 federal hemp ban could become a problem. We talked about with anybody that locally, George?
I mean, they're all watching what's going to happen, right? Certainly, they're very active in the lobbying side of things, right? So I think across the country, all the state organizations are saying, hey, we've got 6 months basically to get this right. Otherwise, we're done. I think from a consumer side, at this point, it's just business as usual, right? You're going to keep putting it on the shelf. We're going to keep getting it off the shelf. And, Missouri's been interesting. They approved it and then they banned it. Well, they didn't really ban it, but like, for example, in Total Wine, it had an end cap and then it disappeared to the point where you had to ask to get it. Then it made it back onto the shelf. And I was in one Total Wine and it was on the shelf, and it was in another Total Wine in the same, in Missouri, 20 miles apart. And one was on the shelf and one you still had to ask it for it. So there's even like county level legislation that's involved with this as well.
Yeah.
So the struggle is, I think everybody's still just afraid of, what the potential, legislative actions are going to cause them. But I think everybody's fighting like crazy right now.
Well, I'm going to just say two things here, and I'm going to take us in kind of a controversial direction. I'm going to say two things. One is, I think our industry screwed this up. I think that our approach to this wasn't what it should have been. I think the other thing too is this ban was, I think we need to follow the money in terms of where and why this ended up in a reopening bill. And again, it leads me back to point one, which is we failed as a 3-tier industry to take a stand on this. We either should have been, let's all not allow this thing first, or we should have been, this is great margin, this is in alignment with what we currently sell. We should be the route to market. We're the most regulated. Let's get in front of this. Let's be the conduit to market, and let's be on the right side of lobbying for this. And our industry is incredible at lobbying. We have to be. We're the 3-tier system. Because if we're all going to be honest with each other, the 3-tier system in a perfectly competitive environment probably wouldn't exist. So we've had to be very good at lobbying. So I think it's just a huge miss for our industry. It's rather disappointing to see.
The reason why it is a miss too, just from structural side and in terms of why, from an industry perspective, is that various different wholesalers have lots of different opinions, and you've got lots of different ownership groups that vary in location and in age and in risk tolerance that have no interest in participating in this, or all the interest in participating in this. And it's the diversity of, our ownership group as wholesalers. So if you're,
I'll say this. It's the same thing that we said to people at NBWA, which is, even if you want to take a hands-off approach and you don't want to move, you need to be collecting these brands so that the leaders end up in your house, even if you're not ready to take that on from a liability perspective. Similarly, we should have, as an industry, looked at this and said, I may not be comfortable with this. It may not be what I want, but if this shit's coming to market, I want it to come through our system, right? If it's going to be here, I want it to be in our network. So we should lobby for it to be uniform, consistent, federal, and push through the 3-tier system. But again, that's
100%. And
this one struck a chord with me.
And we've been talking about this as a group forever around be at the table rather than on the menu. And in this example, we still sat back as an industry, and some wholesalers did step up to the plate and did write a letter to Congress and say, hey, this is how we should. And there's a group that did do that. And there's a lot of groups that don't. The other thing that's happening behind the scenes too, Ross, is that you've got the BI, it's the Brewers Institute. Those are the big brewers, and it's a big brewer group in Washington. They have one opinion. They wanted the loophole out and closed.
Of course.
And, from their perspective, then you've got wholesalers that, there's some political alignment challenges structurally between your largest supplier partners that are part of the BA and what you want to do. And then I think there's a decent amount of wholesalers like, I don't really have a dog in this hunt yet, but we have all sat right where you're talking about, Ross, is that you have to be at the table or you're going to be on the menu. We are the only adults in the room when it comes to this kind of a topic for the most part, and we are the best armed to actually regulate it and help the legislators build a structure that works. The grandest fear of all of this is that not that it gets banned in 2026. If it does completely gets banned, like that is what it is, like tough shit. That's kind of happens. That may be good. It may be bad long-term for the wholesale tier or for the distributor tier. But the biggest fear in all of this is that it continued to go. It continued to be a completely different structure of beverage alcohol. You go and extrapolate out 10 or 20 years, it's flourishing while beverage alcohol continues to flounder. And now you have a legislative opinion that is, well, why don't we just regulate alcohol like THC? You look at how well this THC beverage business is doing and how poorly the alcohol industry is doing. Why won't we just change and throw the whole thing out and the 21st Amendment and everything else out the door? That's the grandest, longest term look and the longest term fear.
I see that. And that's a valid opinion. I think that I've been on too many calls where, over the last couple of years, where distributors are complaining about business moving across the street to the dispensary, right? Trends are down 5%. People are walking across the street with their marginal dollars. And all of a sudden, unintended consequence, this shit just drops in the lap of us as an industry, right? Accidental.
Yep.
And now, instead of walking across the street, they're walking into our retailers, our customers, and buying our product. And the logical channel to market's through us, because now it's a nationwide, hemp derived product, and it lends itself perfectly to beverage. I mean, talk about a gift.
Yep.
And right in the middle of declining volumes.
And in the pyramid of consumers that, as we know from Ian Dominguez at Delta Ventures, one of the THC guys we've had on, like that dispensary business is built for that top of the pyramid, that heavy user that is spending hundreds of dollars every month on flower and on THC. Beverage is built on the wider base. You've got less dollars spent, but more people are in that base, and in that it's just better armed for our overall industry, and it's better kept. You're 100% right, Ross.
And there's less stigma walking into the convenience store.
Oh, for sure. For sure. If you're drinking an Easy Man at the deck of your country club, nobody really knows what's going on, or if you're drinking it, rather than if you are hanging out doing everything else, or hanging out drinking or smoking a doobie on the deck of the country club. They will definitely notice that. Not that I've done either one of those.
Well, I mean, it's intimidating as shit to walk into those dispensaries. I was trying to get some stuff for my wife to help her sleep. I walk in there, is incredibly intimidating. I don't know what I'm asking for, and you're rattling off all these like grams and things, and it's like, I'd rather just walk in a convenience store and buy a 6-pack of something.
These grams and things.
The highest number, and just call it.
It's probably what people think when they talk about technology. The one with the more GBs.
Yeah.
You gotta admit though, that highest number might have been part of the issue, right? With the whole THC beverage.
And that's why I think it needs a good reset. The reset button definitely needs to get hit here. We've talked about it many times with regulation, and I don't agree with the 0.04 milligram regulation, but I mean, there needs to be some sort of regulation, whether that ends up at 5, 10, 15, or 20. My personal beliefs, I think, is 10 is great, because as we're here to make money and sell more products, if you want more than 10, buy more. Right? Buy a 4-pack. They come in 8-packs. I've seen them in 12-packs too. So buy more, spend more money. But I think the larger picture here is that we're tapping into, I mean, this story right here says that we're tapping into a whole underestimated consumer, the middle-aged woman, right? Where, historically a glass of wine or 2, or in some cases 3 or 4 or 5, for the relaxation at night, right? And now THC is giving them the same relaxation. And they're buying relaxation, not intoxication. I think that's what's really important here too, is right. They don't want to get all messed up and wake up with a hangover. And then that's why they only have 1 or 2 glasses of wine to settle in at night. But this gives them that same effect, and they probably feel a little bit healthier consuming it. But we're bringing a whole new, not a replacement to alcohol, right? We're bringing in a whole new consumer into our pockets too, and into our products that we're distributing.
So we did this thing this weekend. Was called Cows and Cabs, and it's put on by the folks that own ABC Liquor. They live in the Orlando area that I'm in, and it's a whole big fundraiser, right? So they get like 50 food vendors, 70 beverage vendors, and ABC Liquor runs it. So you've got all these beverage companies that are coming in and supporting this. Last year they had no THC beverages, but this year they had 70 beverage suppliers, 3 of them THC. They had their own little Green Mile corner. Mikey, he would have loved it, where it was off on the side. And it was busy all night long of folks going in. What I found fascinating at the end of the night is that when I got done distributing my beer, because I was the crew that was helping everybody hold their beers while we were listening to the concert. It's Cows and Cabs. It's a Western theme. So I wore my overalls to this fancy party. Yes, I did. And then I was able to carry like 6 beers in my overalls.
Oh my God. That's
awesome. But what I found fascinating, what Sarah and I both found at the end of the night, was that we were the concert had just wound down. All the beverage alcohol folks had packed up and left, and who was still there working? The THC folks. They were still standing in the corner. They were still had people hanging around. They were still pouring samples. And all the classical beverage alcohol folks, with the exception of a few of the bigger brands that were there, had all packed up their shit and took off. And to me, that's a very interesting like behavioral side of like who's winning, who's trying, who's hustling versus who's losing. And it's kind of a sad little thing in my mind.
I was worried you guys were going to cover this without me last week, so appreciate you holding on to the story.
We lightly covered it just to throw it out there, but we hit it again for our boy. I wanted to get your viewpoint too, Russ. So next thing I thought this was crazy. So there's all kinds of drunk driving, right? And nobody here in laws across the country, nobody here on the pod is for drunk driving. It's a dumb thing to do. But I have never seen this as more of a warning as much as it is a news story. In Oklahoma, if you get picked up for a DUI, it's a mandatory, is the way I read this, 0 tolerance, 10 days in jail immediately.
That's so crazy.
Well, I mean, it's a felony in Canada, and they won't let you in if you have a DUI, or they can block you from entry to Canada.
Restrict you in?
Yeah.
And maybe we just don't, maybe as in America, we're not used to having, like, it's very strict in other countries. So maybe we're just continuing to get more and more strict. But yes, of course you should get in trouble and you shouldn't be doing DUI. I just found this very interesting to have it like 10 days automatic. It's a felony now, or state felony, or whatever they call it, and 0 tolerance. Like, boom, do not pass go straight to jail.
The day that becomes, is that immediately in place?
Let's look a little bit more. I think it's coming immediately in place.
Because it would be interesting to see that day what the Lyft and Uber revenues do.
Yeah, goes to the moon. I mean, it does lend itself to that Uber and Lyft scenario for sure, of where do you get more and more self-driving cars out there? And on one hand, that would be great for the on-premise industry, but on other hand, like, how good is it going to be for the consumer if we replace 2 million drivers overnight?
It was I saw a commercial for Uber the other day, and I said to my wife, I said, that'll be gone in three years. Self-driving's already here. Like, it is game, set, match. I think it'll do. I mean, it was the really interesting article I read. It had a picture of a room full of people, and that's how many people's lives have been saved by Tesla self-driving, because they've got tracking on the number of miles that have been driven self-driving, and they know what the average accident rate per mile is, and they know what the accidents are on the Teslas. And it was like 100 and some odd plus people, 180 people or something's lives that have been saved. And they put them in a room so you could see it, how many people that represents. And just, I mean, and it's a small fraction. I think like 5 or 10% of Tesla users even have self-driving enabled. So when this goes mainstream, it goes to Cybercab. This is game over.
Yeah, the Waymos are incredible. When I've taken those a couple times. So here it is, George. So it's Senate Bill 54 becomes a felony for offenders who have a BAC higher than 0.15, involved in a crash, 20 plus over, or 10 plus in a school zone, drive reckless, evade police, or have a child in the vehicle. All of those things, check the box, do not pass go, get 10 days jail time. So if you do any one of those on top of driving DUI, that's where you get your jail time at. And you can't like, speaking of lobby, Ross, you can't lobby against these things.
No, absolutely not. The optics are terrible.
Touch them. Can't even touch them. But
I mean, it's unfortunate. We live in a society that we're car based, especially in the rural parts of our country. I mean, there's no other way to get around. There's no public transit. It's not like you can hop on the subway.
Yeah, because in Europe or in large cities, particularly like New York, to your point, you just grab a public transit somewhere, or you go one town over in Europe and just hop on the train and go back home and do a short walk back home. It works like clockwork.
And I think a good example of that is, because I missed the pod last week because I was drinking wine, but in Oregon wine country, there's no Ubers, so I had to like broker a car to try to take us there and back for the dinner. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, because I mean, you have to, have the hotel arrange somebody to drive us and everything. I mean, it's super inconvenient.
You were getting warmed up to be hungover at our
Monday morning call.
Yeah, morning.
Well, I mean, I was a dumbass for getting up at 4 a.m. for a call after we drank till midnight.
I love it. And then the last one here is I found this interesting about, and Mikey and George and Ross, like, have you guys seen any of this? Because I haven't seen any of this, but like the proteinification of our food in America, where more and more things are like, oh, we have a bagel with 80 grams of protein, or you can get protein-fied, Pop-Tarts and protein, but that protein and drink is in that, what we would usually drink in high school and would get pumped up and try to get swole and try to get our protein in is now coming to prepackaged alcohol. Have you guys seen any of this stuff?
No, I have not. Thank God. This is the first time actually hearing about it.
I mean, I'm weirded out already by liquid soluble, shelf stable protein drinks. I mean, that's just that's just. I'm still disturbed. I still haven't gotten over that part of it.
George, you're a workout guy. Have you seen any of these, my man? You can
No, I'm
drink
still
and go to
drinking
the
those
gym.
protein drinks from a powder that tastes like chalk. Still trying to find the perfect protein mix, but no, I haven't. I mean, I did come across and tried the protein bagels. They're actually pretty good, but I haven't hit the alcohol. I know it was so I'm going to do BeatBox frozen. I'm going to try a little NA beer. And now this coming holiday weekend, I've got to get me some protein alcohol too.
I've got $1 million idea for you guys, or multi-million-dollar idea. Ready for this? Has anybody put creatine in a drink?
Super creatine.
I shit you not. Has somebody done it?
Super. Yeah, they have. It's super. That's why Bang doesn't exist anymore, because he marketed it as super creatine when there's no such thing as super creatine.
Super creatine.
Did Bang have creatine in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly. And it was super. If you hadn't tried it, Ross, it was super duper duper. But so there's like this Mate vodka protein water, which is one of the new ones. Like, these things are just crazy. And they look hilarious too. If you do any searching around the internet for these, they're like this weird, the packaging is like this weird cross between an energy drink and an RTD. Every single one of them just looks like it's a mix between the two, trying to find their footing. So if you want to read more about it, we'll put the article in here. It's from VinePar, and it's your protein era is coming for your happy hour.
Well, do an experiment for us, George, this weekend or this Thanksgiving.
So the scenario is I work hard all day. I go to the gym after I work. Then after my workout, I need my protein to rebuild my muscles. So I get a protein vodka drink to the point where I can't drive home, and then try and find an Uber.
Exactly.
If they're around.
Or a Lyft, right?
But on Thanksgiving, we want you to get that frozen BeatBox going. So get your BeatBox in the freezer. Think ahead of time, right? And then when it's nice
or the burgundy flavored
protein powder,
burgundy flavored Franzia. That's a better one.
Shake it up with your protein powder, and then report back to us next week on the.
All right. Well, both my boys work out, and they're into the protein powder, so we might have like maybe protein based frozen BeatBox, right?
Yeah. Might be onto something.
Kim is going to kill us.
With a Franzia chaser.
Kim is going to absolutely kill us, for
and
sure.
My wife would absolutely be knocking down the nowadays and just laughing her tail off at us.
Well, boys, have a happy Thanksgiving. I am very thankful for working with all three of you. We've had an incredible year together. George, you've been on board since February. We're coming up on your year anniversary very soon, George. So we love having you around. Mikey, we're hiring on a new person. It's been great to see you work and walk through the interview process that we're doing there, and we're excited about that. If you're still interested, we're going to continue to post about that. You can still apply. There's still an opportunity to as well. And then Ross, even when you're hungover, my man, you're taking care of business, running the implementations the way we need it. And thank God I was there, so Maria didn't have to take over. Ross stood up, or Ross took his camera off, was like, I might have to throw up. I'll be right back. And then this was last Friday.
Oh my God, I missed that.
And George was on the call with us, and he was like, I'm really worried about Ross. I'm like, he's fine. He's just hungover.
I mean, I could see myself in the camera, and I turned like pale white. I was as white as the shirt. I'm like, oh, this isn't good.
Oh, shit. And then you came back and you had your hand on your head like this. I'm like, But there was something really wrong with Ross, and they're all in another channel, keeping, laughing and poking. And I'm just thinking, this poor guy, I don't know, his cat, his dog, his hippopotamus got ran over by the school bus. I don't know what happened.
His head.
He's in trouble. He's in trouble. It's like, no, he's fine. He's just hungover. We were in a different Slack channel you were a part of. Oh, I love it. Well, I love you boys. We've had a great year, and I love all our listeners out there as well. I hope everybody has continued to enjoy the content we put out. If you do, continue to like, listen, and subscribe, and share with a friend. You have listener questions, send them our way. Great feedback from a couple listeners on the Dr. Diane podcast as well, which was great. I did get accused of somebody being like, you can't read her name. I'm like, okay, I can't pronounce her name, but I did pronounce her name the way it is read, even though she actually told me to pronounce it the other way. So that was hilarious to get called out by a listener on a phone call with that too. So you can hit us up at info@vxptech.com. That's info@vxptech.com. You guys rock. Everybody out there, have a happy Thanksgiving, and cheers, boys.
Cheers.